This week's video is brought to you by my upcoming manga Amaranth Angels. In a future where humanity is expanding into space, Sai Nishizawa is a Starfighter pilot prodigy, flying alongside her big sister and their close friend. However, following a sudden tragedy, Sai only wants to run as far from a cockpit as she can. Fate, however, has other ideas. You can read the entire prologue, which details the events leading up to Sai's decision, on Webtoons now, and get subscribed to my Patreon to read ahead and get access to future updates. If you enjoy Girls on Panzer, High School Fleet, and the military moe genre in general, you'll love this too. God willing, it'll be coming to Kickstarter on August 22nd, and you can sign up to be notified when it launches via a link below in the description. Now, onto the video. Conflict is a key part of any story, and it, therefore, comes in many, many different forms. One sort of conflict we see in many stories, in particular character-focused stories, is conflict between two characters forced to work together despite being very different. Heck, there's even an entire subgenre, the buddy cop story, that's built on this. Today, though, I want to focus on a specific form of this type of conflict. Specifically, the conflict between people in positions of authority with very different views on how to act, but while keeping everything very positive. As you've already seen in the title and thumbnail of this video, we're going to take a look at how this is done very well in High School Fleet between Akeno Misaki and Mashiro Munetani. There may be some light spoilers up ahead, so here's your warning. And of course the video's obligatory Girls on Panzer clip. When the show starts, Shiro and Akeno are not friends. In fact, Akeno manages to manifest Shiro's bad luck during their very first encounter, which, somewhat understandably, makes Shiro less than eager to spend more time around her. Though Akeno herself is pretty much oblivious to this and very friendly, which makes it harder for Shiro to be as annoyed as she clearly wants to be. Things take another turn when they find themselves assigned to the same ship, the destroyer Harakazi. And, shockingly to both of them, Akeno is named the captain, with Shiro only being the executive officer. They're both shocked, but for different reasons. Akeno, because she's unsure she truly is the best one for the job, and Shiro, who comes from a distinguished maritime family and aspired to be a captain herself, is shocked at her failure, and her infamous bad luck. But part of what instantly made both of these characters so likable to me is how they responded to the positions they're placed into. Neither one tries to fight the situation. Akeno doesn't fret over her position too much and make herself feel more inadequate, while Shiro, despite her frustration, doesn't try to argue and change the situation. She has a position, and though it wasn't her first choice, she'll do her job. And nothing is taken personally, neither by Shiro due to her being passed up for the position, or Akeno when Shiro later questions her or voices objections to her decisions. To better understand the dynamic of this character clash, though, we need to take a quick look at both of these girls as people, since that plays a major role in influencing both their command styles and how they approach each other in this conflict. Akeno is an extremely friendly, positive, outgoing girl, almost to an extreme sense, seeing as she doesn't quite recognize when someone is actually trying to argue with her sometimes. For her, serving in the Blue Mermaids is a lifelong dream, in part because of their role in saving her as a little kid. She has a very idealistic view of being a Blue Mermaid, and life on a ship in general. She sees it as a family more than as a work team. This attitude also, possibly accidentally, actually helps make her a great commander. Her very personal approach is why she knew the names of the crew ahead of time, and this small thing immediately ingratiated her to them. And, overall, she is quite competent at her job despite her more laid-back approach to things. However, her more airy mindset, and her latent confidence issues, can be a problem at times. For her, decisions also become more difficult, knowing that it might put her friends, her crew, at risk. Shiro, on the other hand, is almost Akeno's polar opposite. She's from a prominent maritime family, with her mother and older sisters all having prominent Blue Mermaid positions. So she was raised for this, and has a very by-the-book, professional approach to things, along with her extensive knowledge. This sort of approach prepares her well for crisis situations, but it also makes improvising and coming up with creative solutions more difficult. As you might expect, these two very different approaches clash almost immediately, although it is kind of one-sided. Shiro is not happy to see that absolute unit of a cat on the bridge, while Akeno cheerfully takes it all in stride and jokingly gives the cat a rank. Shiro is also frustrated by what she sees as Akeno's overly lax attitude. Over the course of much of the season, there are more clashes in command style between these two, though it is basically always initiated by Shiro, which makes sense given their personalities. But what I really like about how this conflict is portrayed is that both characters approach it very maturely. There's really no ego involved in this, not even for Shiro, which is somewhat surprising, and other stories with different tones and characters, this would absolutely be an element, at least for her. But High School Fleet is a cute girls doing military things show, and has an appropriately positive tone, keeping the character conflicts minimal. While this might seem overly simplistic, a little too moe for some, and unrealistic to others, to me it comes off as the opposite. As I just mentioned, this is a very mature character conflict. One of the more mature ones I've seen in a show like this. Part of that is due to what I already mentioned, ego not being a part of it. But it goes beyond that. Remember, this is an inexperienced crew operating alone, especially after Episode 1's events, in a situation the crew weren't prepared for at all. In that situation, every decision by the captain matters. We as the viewers might be sure they'll all be okay because we know the genre, but they don't. So it makes sense that Shiro, who has very strong opinions on how a captain should act and what they should do, would argue with Akeno when she feels necessary. While Akeno, on the flip side, doesn't take offense at all when she's questioned, happily explaining her line of thought as she works to find a solution. Yes, there is disagreement, but it's all done for a very good reason and with genuinely good intentions behind it by both characters. They have a crew and a ship to keep safe. There really isn't ever a "I should be the captain, not you" type of fight. Just criticism, while still being respectful of the chain of command. This actually reminds me of a concept in Jewish thought, which translates to, in English, an argument for the sake of heaven. It applies when there is a disagreement, sometimes a very strong one, about an aspect of religious law, but where both sides have well thought out reasoning, and they are disagreeing purely out of a desire to make sure the correct decision is made. Because in these cases, winning the argument isn't what matters. Making the decision that leads to the best outcome for the people is. The conflict between Akeno and Shiro being this kind of conflict is what makes it easy for them to figure out how to work together effectively, despite their differences, utilizing each of their strengths to complement each other and ensure that they accomplish the mission and keep their people safe. And as we see throughout the show, and even more in the movie, they become an extremely effective pair, to the point where, when Shiro is finally offered a ship of her own, she has a very hard time making a decision. As I mentioned in my last High School Fleet video, these two really end up forming a sort of Kirk-Spock dynamic, for those familiar with Star Trek. Like us old people. Of course, my loving how their conflict was portrayed in High School Fleet doesn't mean that more aggressive character conflicts, or disagreements over command decisions do get more personal, can't be done well in the right story. They absolutely can. But I personally prefer characters who have the maturity to stay focused on what matters, despite their widely different personalities and approaches to command. It's actually kind of funny how high school girls in anime often act with more maturity than adult characters in other works of fiction, isn't it? This phenomena is part of why I enjoy the cute girls doing military things / military moe genre as much as I do. But I'm going to require a separate video, eventually, to talk properly about that. I hope this didn't end up being too rambly a video, but as I started another rewatch of High School Fleet, since I hope to make some more videos on it in the not too distant future, this is something that really jumped out to me that I really wanted to talk about. I hope you found it interesting as well. If you enjoyed this video and would like to support me and what I do here, check out the links below to my books and light novels. A link to my Patreon is down there too. I've been sharing awesome updates, including completed pages and additional previews from my upcoming manga Amaranth Angels on there, and there are other rewards too. You could also read the entire prologue for free over on Webtoons, and the Kickstarter, as I mentioned at the start of the video, launches next Tuesday. I've also got some cool merch over on TeePublic. And as always, if you have any thoughts on this video or there's anything High School Fleet related you'd like me to talk about, definitely share them below in the comments. I love to hear them, and I do read every comment, and I try to respond to as many as I can. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future uploads. That's all for now, so until next time.